What's up, guys? This is Strange Skull back with another video. I hope I never had to have made. It's a video. This video I never thought I'd really have to make, but I gotta talk about it. I gotta get my thoughts. Right now, there is a huge proxy battle for control of the board of directors of Disney. One side is Bob Iger and his board of minions, pretty much the people who have no investment in the future of Disney. And then on the other side is Nelson Peltz, and a couple other individuals who have a shit ton of stock. More than the actual board of directors of Disney, and they are fighting tooth and nail to take control of Disney. And pretty much, if you look at it face value, Bob Iger doesn't really have a leg to stand on, because Nelson Peltz and his group have proven that the people who are stewards of Disney right now don't know what the fuck they're doing. They just blow through money and they destroy every IP that they have. And Bob Iger is fighting tooth and nail to keep his position, to try and secure his legacy, and just keep that cushy job. Now, the reason I'm telling you all this is somebody has thrown their weight behind Bob Iger. The single person who has the most stock of any individual in the world, who has a shit ton of stock. And that person is George Lucas. The guy who made this and this. Two big cornerstones of my childhood: Star Wars and Indiana Jones. George Lucas has thrown his stock behind the people that ever since they acquired Lucasfilm, and since 2012, a decade, have done nothing but tear down and defile everything he's created. But yet, George has thrown in with these people who he has called white slavers. After what, in the wake of The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, George felt like he made a mistake. Because he did. He was lied to. Bob Iger manipulated George, told him everything he wanted to hear, to get George to sign on the dotted line and turn over Star Wars and Indiana Jones to Disney. And that fucking shrew Jezebel, Kathleen Kennedy, was installed in charge of all this. And she has done everything in her power over the past decade to destroy these IPs of Star Wars and Indiana Jones. And at this point, you can't say, oh no, she hasn't. Oh, the proof is in the goddamn pudding. You go out to any store, doesn't matter if it's Target or Walmart, you go out there. Do you see Star Wars stuff? My local Target used to have a nice big display of Star Wars. Now, it's a joke. There's barely anything there. Star Wars used to be a juggernaut of merchandise sales. Stores would beg to get more Star Wars stuff. I didn't grow up in the era of the OT, so I can't speak on how it was back in the late 70s and 80s with Star Wars. I can only speak to how it was when I was a kid during the 90s and then the rise of the prequels. Star Wars was everywhere. Mattress sets, paper plates, they had shampoo bottles, toothbrushes, and then the toy aisles, half the goddamn side of a Walmart when I was a kid used to be dedicated to Star Wars. Back when KB Toys, that's another blast from the past, you'd go there, power of the Force, everywhere. You wanted a Luke Skywalker figure, you could go fucking find one. You wanted Darth Vader, you could find them. Princess Leia, anyone, you could find them. Now, go to a Star Wars section, Target's bad enough, but you go to Walmart, it's even a bigger joke. And I know my colleague, the Spaceman, has done videos of going and talking about this. You go to Ollie's. When I was a kid, you never saw Star Wars in an Ollie's. Ollie's is where dead merchandise goes. Ollie's is now flooded with Star Wars merchandise. And even other stores like Ross are littered with Star Wars merchandise because they can't sell it. No one wants it. This generation does not want it. And us old school guys, we don't want the shit either. But I say all this is because I am passionate about Star Wars. And George Lucas made a statement yesterday calling Nelson Peltz's organization, his group of guys are trying to take over, amateurs. And that Bob Iger has been a terrific steward of Disney, and he understands Disney. Now, if you could find the statement, it's not George. George didn't write that. Probably his wife did, because she is an SJW. She's one of the people, and she is a board member of Chase Bank. They're another ally of Bob Iger's. But again, everyone could say, but George didn't write this. It's not his words. He might not have wrote the statement, but he okayed it. I think, to be honest, George doesn't give a fuck anymore. And why should he? Because let's be honest, the fans pushed George to this. Now, of course, all the other people on the internet love to just try and take credit away from George for the success of Star Wars. That all knows Gary Kurtz, Marshall Lucas, those other two guys that helped edit the first Star Wars. They're the ones that made Star Wars what it was. They understood it. Not George, the guy who came up with this shit while being inspired by Joseph Campbell and Kurosawa films. And a little bit of Buck Rogers in there, and maybe a little bit of Flash Gordon, and of course, Bear throws in here some people piss off. Maybe a little Frank Herbert Dune. Maybe. But again, there weren't it's not like you can't go find the other proof scripts of Star Wars and find out how creative George was. And again, everyone wants to take credit away from him when this is a man who, when he made the first Star Wars movie, nearly died, or fearing he was going to die because he was so stressed out, had such hypertension, was getting chest pains, because he just wanted to make this movie. It was back when George had passion. And then he had the passion when Empire Strikes Back was being made. But George was betrayed. Gary Kurtz was in charge of that production. He let it run wild, over budget, to the point where all the loans that George took out to make this movie independent, they wanted their money back because they were afraid that this movie was going to flop because the budget was going skyrocketing. They wanted their money back. So George had to do what he didn't want to do and go to 20th Century Fox and have them pick up the cost. And with that, he lost his independence. He was betrayed. And that's why you didn't get any more Star Wars movies until 1999. That's why Return of the Jedi was the end for a while, because George wanted to get the fuck away from it. And again, too, that's why these movies are not produced by 20th Century Fox. They went to Paramount. It sucks because, again, Star Wars, besides the X-Men, Star Wars is so much of my childhood. Star Wars helped expand my imagination. Before the prequels came out, when I would watch the original films on VHS, God, I feel fucking old. But watching them on VHS and just being in awe. Empire Strikes Back was my favorite movie when I was a kid. The Battle of Hoth, I loved the spectacle of it. And then Luke fighting Darth Vader at the end, holy hell. And of course, the introduction of this guy, my favorite character of Star Wars, Boba Fett. Another character that has been defiled by the Bob Iger regime of Disney. There's a lot of people that are angry at George, as they feel George has betrayed them. In a way, maybe, but I feel like a lot of those same fans, they're the ones that fired the first shot at George Lucas. We had that documentary, The People versus George Lucas, where you had fans so butthurt about the prequels. Man, the vile shit people said about George Lucas, to the point where George stopped caring. And of course, everyone likes to say, oh, other people helped make Star Wars what it is. The expanded universe. Yeah, George didn't write all that stuff. He had to approve it, though. And of course, oh, he didn't read every single thing. It's like, I think he did. There's a lot of stuff he did incorporate. And again, too, Shadows of the Empire. George didn't write any of that. But he approved it. And there was a huge media campaign for it in the 90s. They had trailers for the stuff. They were pumping this stuff out. It's like they had comic books, the novelization, the toy line, which I had the figures for. If George didn't give a fuck about that, why would he have approved any of that? Because again, under George's stewardship, until he sold it, Star Wars was coherent. One thought. You could just, everything seemed to make sense. It had a look to it. It felt like Star Wars. To the point when they did the comic book series Star Wars Legacy from the Dark Horse comic books. That was an awesome sequel to Star Wars. It was set so far in the future that hardly any of the original cast of Star Wars characters were in it. The only ones who were in it was R2-D2. Just because he's a droid. You know, they can live for fucking ever. Other than that, there was no one there. They created all new characters, they updated the looks of stuff. It looked awesome. In my opinion, it was almost, I view that as like drafting of maybe doing future stuff. Maybe cartoons or trying to do a movie of it. Nothing became of it because I think George was afraid to make films. Again, because of what happened with the prequels. But we got that Clone War cartoon with that fucking donkey dumb fuck running it, Dave Filoni. Another parasite in all this who thinks he knows Star Wars better than the creator. He doesn't. He just likes to insert his own bullshit and fucking wolf fetishes into everything. I don't like Dave Filoni because he has destroyed the characteristics of the Mandalorians and made them just lesser. And also helped contribute to the downfall of Boba Fett and Jango Fett. So, fuck him. And of course, we can't forget the star of this is that Jezebel Kathleen Kennedy. Who, in my opinion, has been a useless woman, which most of them seem like in Hollywood when they become executives. They're fucking useless. But she's like the perfect example of just, yeah, we brought her along because, she's our buddy's friend, our buddy's wife, so she's got to be around. Might as well give her something to do. She's been an overpaid fucking secretary for decades. Anytime she's associated with a film that she has a bit control over, it's fucking chaos. Particularly, Jurassic Park 3. She pissed Joe Johnson off so much that this is a perfect dude who should have been making Star Wars movies. When they went to do the sequels, he should have been pegged to direct one of them because he used to work for fucking ILM. He understands Star Wars. Also, he's a pretty damn good director. But they fucking hate each other so much because she's such a pain in the ass. He never be brought back. But also, too, it's because Kathleen Kennedy is a typical woman in Hollywood that she wants to prove that she's smart and she knows things when she fucking doesn't. She has spent her stewardship of Lucasfilm over this decade, the decade of terror, as Lucasfilm being under the wing of Disney. As she has taken a franchise that was considered evergreen. Evergreen means it always makes money. Under her leadership, Star Wars is no longer evergreen. It's fucking mud. To the point where even the toy giant Hasbro has had to admit this. That Star Wars is tanking their stock. And tanking their fucking sales profits. And even like the Star Wars team at Hasbro has been frustrated. As anytime they want to try and do something clever to try and get some merchandise and try and get some stuff sold, they get smacked down from it, like the whole Grogu and fucking Luke Skywalker stuff at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian. Hasbro was all excited about that. They got shut down from it because they didn't want Luke Skywalker to have a spotlight. And that Ahsoka TV show, Disney had so much faith in it that when Hasbro's like, so we're going to talk about merchandise for it? They're like, yeah, do whatever. We don't give a fuck. I know I've been a bit rambling in this video, but it just sucks. Because this is coming after a few weeks ago the death of someone else who was a big part of my childhood as well. Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball Z, and many other anime and manga, and even video games. His passing. Because I view it this way. Akira Toriyama and George Lucas can be viewed in the same light. Because Akira Toriyama, he got tired of doing Dragon Ball Z too. That's why at the end of the Buu saga, he was like, I'm done. I can put this to rest because I'm burned out. But then Hollywood made Dragon Ball. God, that Dragon Ball Evolution movie. And it was complete and utter shit. That made Akira Toriyama go, oh my god, I gotta come back and do more stuff. And that's why he did Fury of the Gods. And then Resurrection of F. And then that led to the restart of the Dragon Ball manga to Dragon Ball Super and eventually the anime. He got rejuvenated. And granted, fans have been topsy-turvy, but again, they still liked it. And he was still writing the manga up until his death. It's sad to see Akira Toriyama, who loved his creation so much, even though at one point he was sick and tired of it, but he got his passion back for it. I think when George Lucas, you look at him, George was passionate about Star Wars. But then he did the prequels. And you had people lashing out at him, shit-talking him, just, oh, this isn't the... just throwing their fucking boulders at him to where he's got tired of it. And he said, oh, fuck this. I'll sell it to Disney. And again, too, George did have some passion left, but it was snuffed out. As why would he have made those comments in an interview? Calling Disney white slavers. And again, too, his other comment he made too was, there's nothing new in those movies. There's no new technology being used. There was nothing new in the sequel trilogy. No new idea. No new filming technique. Nothing. Nothing to push the edge of anything else. You look at the original trilogy, George Lucas brought back the passion to do special effects. Because of the work that he did with ILM to do the Death Star run. Just the miniature work alone. And then we did the prequels. The mixture of practical and then the pioneering of pushing CGI. Look at the sequel trilogy. What the fuck did they do new in that? Nothing. The stupid Han Solo movie. What the fuck did they do in that? Nothing. Because that's the point. All the this whole new thing of Hollywood is you have a bunch of people that have no creative spark. They're nothing. It is sad that George would allow his name to be muddied like this. As again, Bob Iger, why the fuck would he still consider him a friend when Bob, in Bob Iger's own autobiography, kind of jokes about the fact that he pulled one over on George. He fucking admits it. That, yeah, I just told George what he wanted to hear so he'd sign on the dotted line, and then as soon as we got it, I just told Kathy and JJ, do whatever you want. We're not going to follow these notes. That's a real friend, ain't he? And again, with that, Jezebel Kathleen Kennedy, this is her vengeance. This is her vengeance on George and Steven Spielberg, who she felt, I'm going to do it better than you. And she can't. She's destroyed Star Wars. And we all know what she did to Indiana Jones. And I blame Harrison Ford for that, but that old... who gives a fuck about that old pothead? It's... a lot of people are comparing what George did. George has joined the dark side. He's pled fealty to the Emperor. But again, I just really think George is tired. He doesn't care anymore. He's just letting people use him as just a pawn. Because really now the lemmings are going to be like, oh, well, if George is backing Iger, I guess I should too. Bob Iger doesn't know shit. Bob Iger does not have a creative bone in his body. He's a fucking weatherman. All this asshole knows how to do is spend money. And it's coming quickly where Disney don't have that big budget like they used to. Because again, times are fucking tough. Those parks that used to be the soft cushion that could take the impact of shit film decisions, that cushion ain't there anymore because people aren't going to the fucking Disney parks and dropping a lot of money. They're going to Universal, where they're not getting raked over the coals. All Bob Iger's trying to desperately do in this last Hail Mary with George Lucas showing support is Bob Iger is so terrified if he loses control of the board, his legacy will be destroyed. Because that's all Bob Iger's doing. He doesn't give a fuck about Disney. He's worried about his image and his legacy. Trying to polish that turd up. Because he's failed. Marvel was the crown jewel of his little media empire of showing how great he was. It's shit now. The MCU is utter disaster and feminist woke bullshit ideology. I know the X-Men 97 cartoon just came out. I haven't watched it yet. I will and give you my thoughts on it when I do watch it. But I just had to get this out of here, guys. It's just... I know I've been a little rambly in this, but this is just me trying to get my thoughts out. Where it just sucks. I've lived long enough now. I've seen the death of Stan Lee, Akira Toriyama, and a couple other manga creators. And this is really almost... well, just say it. This is the death of Star Wars. As people were hoping that George would join up with Peltz and Ike Perlmutter, the former owner of Marvel. Everyone was thinking George was going to join up with these guys and try and take control of the board. And that way, maybe there was a hope that Star Wars could be saved. But it's not. Now, I know there's a lot of people on YouTube that are just like, yeah, let it burn down. Let it burn down. Just let them destroy everything so then it could rise up again. But I'm not going to cheer. I can't. As much as I hate what Disney has done to Star Wars, I can still separate the two. Because I know what real Star Wars is. These 6 movies, the Toronowski's Clone Wars, the 2 seasons of that, and the original EU. That's Star Wars. And I'll always keep that alive. So inevitably, when Disney does burn, which it seems like it's a foregone conclusion that Bob Iger's going to win this proxy battle. And if he does, Disney will probably, within a year and a half, will start burning down. Be a lot of people cheering. I'll just be sitting over here in my dark corner, somber. Like I said, Star Wars was very important to me. It's like saying goodbye to a friend who's always been there. Well, I guess this is goodbye. I guess we have to follow what Yoda said. We have to let go of everything we fear to lose. And what it looks like, we've lost Star Wars. We've lost Indy. We just have to let it go. But at least we still have the movies. And we have all of our other media we've had. As much as these idiots try, they can't take that away from us. They can make new crap, try and shove it out, but they can never take this. Can never take this away from us. That's why I've said, always keep your physical media. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. This is Strange Skull signing off. Take care, guys.